Hello everyone, my name is Derek Sinnott. I'm Director of Lean Construction Ireland and I will be your facilitator for today. I'd like to welcome you to this Lean Construction Ireland presented by Mark Pyne, who's Continuous Improvement Manager with Uisce Éireann. The title of his presentation is Continuous Improvement in Uisce Éireann. If you have any questions, please type them in the question box and we'll consolidate and ask Mark after the presentation. If there are any questions that we don't get to answer during the webinar, we'll follow up by email afterwards. The speaker for today is Mark Pyne. Mark is an expert Lean Six Sigma practitioner with a motivation for and track record of developing a culture of continuous improvement through people. He's a results-driven leader with excellent interpersonal and communication skills derived from working in international and cross-cultural environments. He's passionate about deploying continuous improvement frameworks and methodologies whilst coaching teams to achieve growth, operational excellence, and increased employee engagement. I'll now hand over to Mark to present. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks for the intro, Derek. Good afternoon, everyone. So yeah, what I'm going to take you through today, and I'll go to the agenda now, is I'm going to talk a little bit about Uisce Éireann and give you an overview of the continuous improvement team and what we do. I'm going to talk a little bit about all the continuous improvement tools, the a la carte menu that's out there, and then I'm going to narrow down a little bit into Uisce Éireann and the continuous improvement tools that we use. I'm going to talk to some of the offerings that we give in our academy, and then I'm going to go a little bit more detailed into the Yellow Belt program itself. So just on me, Derek kind of touched off, that was off my LinkedIn profile, but yeah, I'm a continuous improvement manager. I'm with Uisce Éireann for just over 2 years. I think it was 2 years last week. Before Uisce Éireann, I mostly worked for American multinationals. And really my passion is Lean and Six Sigma kind of in the non-manufacturing space. So not on the manufacturing floor, but more so in the back office functions, you know, finance, procurement, supply chain, etc. I'm certified in PMP. I've done the black belt in Six Sigma. But really what lit me up was, I don't know, about 12 years ago now, I did a master's in Lean over in the University of Buckingham in the UK. And that really gave me the passion for continuous improvement and Lean. Personally, I have 3 kids. And yeah, I spend most of my time driving them around Cork to various sporting activities. So that's me. Let's talk a little bit about Uisce Éireann. So I guess probably 80% of people are customers. Everybody, you know, turns on the tap and flushes the toilet, and I was the same up to 2 years ago, but I didn't really understand the complexity of Uisce Éireann. So just maybe an overview of what it does. So obviously on the water side, it's really split into 2 sides of the house with water and wastewater. On the wastewater side, we need to get our water from somewhere, so we abstract it. You can see there we take 80% from rivers and lakes and 20% from groundwater. And we've got over 1,000 abstraction sites. There's 1,000 different places where we're taking water from. And obviously we use a lot of pumps, a lot of pumping stations to pump that water to where we clean it or treat it. And you can see again, massive numbers. We treat and produce 1.7 billion litres of water each and every day. And that's spread out of over 706 plants all over the country. So that's the usage. So as a country, we use 1.7 billion litres of water a day. From an Uisce Éireann perspective, obviously some people have their own private wells. And then on the wastewater side, well, just before we go to wastewater, we have to get that water to people. So you can see we've got over 64,000 kilometres of water mains. And again, we need to pump that to the end users. So we've got nearly 1,800 pumping stations. So again, a huge complex network. And then on the wastewater side, every time you run your shower or sink or flush your toilet, we've got 26,000 kilometres of sewers, 2,270 pumping stations, and these obviously take the wastewater and send it to a treatment plant where we treat just over 1.2 billion litres of water every day across over 1,000 plants across the country. So it's a really, really complex, large-scale system that we have. with thousands and thousands of assets. And just to give an example, where I work, the Lee Road water treatment plant is just down the road. It supplies 70% of Cork City. Treatment began on that site back in 1879. And just to give a scale of the funding required, there was no major upgrade since 1950. The EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, had us on what's called a RAL, or a remedial action list that requires action. And that works that were completed in the last couple of years took 40 million to complete. And that was just on one drinking water treatment plant. And just maybe one stat to give the scale of it, that was just one of 5,795 plants and pumping stations, and 90,000 kilometers of mains and sewers. And if you took that 90,000 kilometers of mains and sewers, it would circumnavigate the Earth twice. So the infrastructure that we're looking after is huge, complex, and old, and requires significant investment. The other major aspect about Uisce Éireann at the moment is it's undergoing huge transformation, and we call it UET, or Uisce Éireann transformation. And really, if you look at where we were up until very recently, you had Uisce Éireann, or Irish Water, that was formed back in 2013. It's gone through various different transformations. It was owned by Gas Networks Ireland and Arvia, and only last year it split out into Uisce Éireann. But if you look at how we deliver our service, that was delivered by 31 local authorities, 31 distinct, separate local authorities. And where we want to get to at the end of 2026, if this transformation is over a number of years, is one publicly owned commercial semi-state utility, where all water services is under the control and direction of Uisce Éireann. Again, where we are today and where we have been, we've multiple ways of working across those 31 local authorities. We want to get to a single way of working, one best way of doing things, one best way of working. Again, where we've been, we haven't had direct line of sight to our customer, staff, and assets, because we had a service level agreement with all these local authorities. Where we are moving to is, again, full control over our customer interactions, all of our staff, and all of our assets. And in terms of employees, if we look at Uisce Éireann today, we've got approximately 1,550 employees, but predominantly, and I'm one of those, we're all in professional roles and we're all pretty much office based. Whereas when all of the local authority employees come in, or we hire new people, by the end of 2026, we're going to have 4,300 employees in professional and field force roles, and they're going to comprise of existing staff who move in from the local authorities, as well as new hires. So very, very complex asset infrastructure and a complex organizational structure as well, because we're really building up the targeting operating model that we want to have by the end of 26. So there's a huge amount of change currently happening in Uisce Éireann. So let's go down a little bit again. So let's have a look at the continuous improvement team. So I'll start on the right of this screen. So we're a small team. There's only 3 of us, and we like to say we have 3 legs on our stool. So we do 3 main things. One of which is training and facilitation. We do a lot of training, Lean and Six Sigma. We do a lot of facilitation for various different functions within the business. We lead out on certain big improvement projects, certain initiatives that we're pulled into. And I spend an awful lot of my time, and we spend a lot of our time supporting the trainees that we put through the training, and mentoring and coaching them through their projects. So that's really what we do with the small team that we have. Over on the left is our organizational structure. So just like any other company, public or private, lots of different functions or directorates, we call them. So you can see we're split up into 8 main directorates. Asset management, they really determine where we invest our capital expenditure, where we spend the money, how we get the best bang for the buck. Business services, you can see things like transactional services, or fleet, or supply chain, or business, or supporting functions are in there. Where the continuous improvement team sits is in operations. So back in that slide when I said a huge amount of change, you know, water services coming in, the LA staff moving in, it's really all happening in the main in here. Operations is having the biggest impact. Communications and corporate affairs, finance, infrastructure delivery is really the directorate that spends that capital investment and ensures that the investment that we want to put in place is executed. Then we have HR, people and safety, and we have a strategy and regulation team. So while we sit within the operations team, we really serve the whole organization. So, you know, 38 different boxes there, 38 different functions, only 2 or 3 or 4 of which are operations. So a lot of what we do isn't in the plants themselves, you know, it's dealing with somebody in finance, and facilities, and supply chain, in HR, etc. So we probably spend more of our time in the back office functions than we do, let's say, in a plant or in a pumping station. So this presentation was actually one I gave back on the 7th of November at the LCI annual event in Croke Park, and part of the team of that conference was innovation and digital technologies. So I wanted to put a bit of a digital spin, and at the time I was doing a course on artificial intelligence. It was a 3-day course, and I was learning about ChatGPT and large language models. So what I wanted to do I wanted to bring it in some way to this presentation, and I think it kind of just shows, for anybody who hasn't used a large language model or ChatGPT, it shows a little bit of power of what's out there with these new technologies. So you can go on to ChatGPT, you can create an account in 2 minutes, and you can interact with it. So I wanted to do it for this presentation. So here is the prompt that I put in, and it's quite a complex prompt, and it gives you an indication just of the complexity that these models can deal with. So let's take a look. So I'll read it out. It's a bit long, but you are a continuous improvement consultant. Please list me the top 20 business continuous improvement methodologies used by corporations over the past 60 years. Please also list a company that has championed each methodology. Number each methodology and rank them from most popular to least popular. For popularity, multiply the number of companies in Europe that have used the methodology by the number of books published on the methodology. Describe each methodology in 2 to 3 words max in a separate column. For the top 2 methodologies, list the combined top 20 tools that are used within the 2 methodologies. Also rank them in order of popularity and use a company that championed each tool. Display the results in 2 tables. And I use the word please a couple of times. I don't think it made a difference, but I said I'd be nice. So the idea of this is to see what are all of the continuous improvement stuff that is out there, all of the religions, all the methodologies, all the frameworks, and let's see what Uisce Éireann have decided to pick from. So here's what it produced. And all I did really was I copy and paste. So I took a screenshot of what ChatGPT produced, and it did exactly as I asked. Table 1, top 20 business continuous improvement methodologies, and table 2, the top 20 tools for Lean and Six Sigma, which were identified as the top 2. So you can see probably any organization that you're with that does some form of improvement, you're probably referenced in here somewhere. Lean and Six Sigma come out on top. TQM, Agile, just in time, theory constraints, Hush and Canary, design for Six Sigma. Again, over here, we've got 5S and Kaizen, Kanban coming out top, and again, probably most tools that you will have seen. An observation is mostly manufacturing companies, not all, but mostly. Spotify certainly not. So what do Uisce Éireann take from all of this? Well, definitely in here, because the title of this presentation is Lean and Six Sigma. So we do take aspects of Lean and Six Sigma. But interestingly, on the right-hand side, we don't really play with these top tools. In the main, we're using these 6 here to make SIPOC, fishbone, process mapping, root cause analysis, and cause and effect. And in a way, I think that's a good thing, because we're not just using the top tools for the sake of the tools. And it's also important that, you know, some of the tools are more focused on manufacturing than maybe the non-manufacturing space. So I guess a lesson out of this is You got to pick the right methodologies and tools maybe for your company or for your business or for your culture. So let's go down a little bit deeper again. So we've decided to select Lean and Six Sigma. Lean, as many of us will know, comes from Japan, from Toyota. It's based on this plan, do, check, act kind of premise. The visual we use for a process before Lean is kind of a higgledy-piggledy process, and then look, after you've leaned it out, it's nice and streamlined and straightforward. And then on the other side of the house, we've got Six Sigma, American, pioneered by Motorola. And then instead of plan, do, check, act, Six Sigma uses define, measure, to make, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. And you can see here, Six Sigma is more about reducing variation and quality, and Lean is more about taking out waste and efficiency. So up here I've the pick and mix picture, and that's kind of what we've done. We've said, look, we like a bit of this, we like a bit of this, and what we think will fit best for our organization is a combination of both, and that's Lean Six Sigma. And I think, you can argue that there's not much of a difference between the two methodologies, and I like this visual in the middle here. So you got your plan, do, check, act, which some people argue that's really just Lean and it's very different than to make. But if you look at it, it's not really. I mean, the previous company I worked with did plan, do, check, act. In Uisce Éireann, we used to make. But if I look at them, they're really following the same methodology. In planning, we used to do define, measure, and analyze. We just didn't call them that. And then in the improve, we did a do and the check, and then the act is the same as the control. So again, I think it's pick and mix, whatever suits for the organization, and it evolves and it grows over time. So that's why we ended up with Lean and Six Sigma. To delve into that a little bit more, what aspects of Six Sigma and aspects of Lean do we use? Well, we decided to go with the make. So we like the make, nice and simple. The define is really, well, what is the issue? What is the problem you're trying to fix? Measure is, can we get a measure on it? Can we understand where the process is now? What's happening now? Analyze really is about what's causing the problem. Can we understand all of the causes? Improve is what can be done about it. And control is, well, how when we fix it, how can we keep it there? So that's really the aspect of Six Sigma that we use. There's a lot of complex mathematical tools within Six Sigma that we don't think is going to give us bang for the buck in the environment that we're in. But what we do like very much is the Lean principles. So for anybody in your companies where you use the 5 Lean principles, we use them a lot to pull in the tools that we pull in. And just to go over them, these were really drafted in the book by Womack and Jones back in 1996, where they sold millions of copies. It was called Lean Thinking, and really they came up with 5 principles of Lean organizations. 1 is understand what your customers want, identify value. 2 is map the value stream, which is really all it means is understand end to end, from your raw materials to your service delivery, what's happening in your supply chain. 3, I think, is the most important one, which is create flow. Whatever it is that's adding value, keep it moving. Don't let it stop. Keep it moving. Keep transforming it. 4, I think, is more establish pull. That's really your just in time. It's probably more to do with manufacturing than some service work, but that's really don't make it until you need it. And then 5 is you're never finished. You can always make it better, seek perfection. So that's really our philosophy. We use the make, and we use some Lean principles and tools in all of our offerings. I mentioned that there's just 3 of us. We're a small team in a company that's going to have over 4,300 employees. So we operate very much on a pull model. We don't force anybody to do Lean Six Sigma. We don't force anybody to do continuous improvement. We try and pull them into our offerings. And with that, I kind of have my own personal model for change. that I saw somebody in a conference a number of years ago, and it really, really stuck with me ever since. And I just wanted to share it. I kind of split it up into 3 levels, if you want to think about how to do change in an organization. And the first one is coercive. So it's this, model of you get on board or else, you go somewhere else. So you do this or else, you do it our way, or else. And I personally have found that doesn't really work too well in general. It can do with certain things, like safety. I think we have to have that type of an approach. But for changing hearts and minds, I'm not so sure. The next level down is that rational approach. So appealing to someone's better judgment. And I think this analogy serves it well. We have the wheels, but people are too busy to stop and use them. Or to go on. You should do this because, and that's better. It's not as bad, but it doesn't always work because you're trying to persuade people. And the level we really try and get to, we call it this normative. So it's really get people, and the picture here paints 1,000 words. Get people coming up with the solutions. Give them the problem, and let them come up with experiment and experience and learn together, and come up with the change or the solution for themselves. So that's really where we try and act. That people are pulling in our expertise, and our expertise then is to try and get people to come up with the solutions themselves, rather than appeal to them or tell them what to do. So this is our school basically. We've got 4 offerings. We have a white belt that everybody does when they join. It's only 15 minutes and it's online. We've got our yellow belt, which is more comprehensive, and we're doing it virtual since COVID. I think we're going to look to try and get back out there next year, maybe do some virtual and some in person. But this really is where we try and get our culture out there. It's 10 hours over 5 days. We've over 400 people trained, and it's open to all employees. The green belt, we've done a few, but to be honest, it's complex, but I don't think we're ready for it. I don't think we're getting the bang for the buck that we should be, because it's 5 days in person. So we think we're going to loosen back on it next year and come back to it. But we just don't feel like we're getting what we should out of it at the moment. And the other one we have is a lean leader, 90 minutes over Teams. So anybody who's sponsoring projects of the yellow belts, we put them through that 90-minute session. So to finish off this presentation, I just want to give you more of an insight into the yellow belt, really. So as I said, we follow the DMAIC, define, measure, analyze, improve, control. We have a set number of tools that we like to give people for structure. And the first one is, we call it a project charter. So that very much comes from the Six Sigma side of the house. And look, we've all heard the problem well defined is a problem half solved. The charter is really there to get people to buy in, get it on a page, get it documented, get clarity. It sounds easy, but it can take quite a while for somebody to land on exactly what it is they want to fix. Put numbers on it if you can, define the team, define the scope. So as a team, really, we don't get involved in anything unless one of these is there and it's clear, and it can always, it's a baseline, really, a contract for what the project is going to be about, for what it's going to try and fix. That's probably the main tool we have in our define stage. From a measure perspective, 2 main tools really. One is mapping, and the second one is data, when and if we have it. Mapping really is where the magic happens that I've seen, especially in the back office functions, because we're distributed all over Ireland in various different offices. We've got many functions and sub-functions. You can see here, without going into any detail on this person's project, it's going in and out of 9 functions for something to happen. And it's not the more the merrier. It's usually too many cooks spoil the broth. So the more functions you're going in and out of to get something to happen, probably the more complex it is and the longer it's going to take. So mapping really helps us to understand where the delays are, where the bottlenecks are, where the confusion is, where the rework So yeah, that's probably a tool that we really get a lot out of, understanding, mapping the process. And of course, the only reason we want to understand it is so we can improve it. So we encourage most of our projects to map out what's happening. After we understand it, then we want to analyze it. So brainstorming helps us understand the causes. And one of the tools that we use here is a simple cause and effect diagram, or a fishbone, or an Ishikawa. And really it's coming up with a list of all of the reasons why the problem is a problem. In this particular one here, you can see all of the reasons have been ranked. So 5 is a bigger contributor than some of the ones. And the idea then is that we're going to focus on the vital few rather than the trivial many when it comes to improve. So again, a simple tool that people understand. And a lot of these tools that we use are designed around getting people together, brainstorming together, working together to get a common understanding. So now that we have analyzed it and we know what our problem is, obviously the next step is to improve it. Again, we like to keep it simple. A tool that we use a lot is called a pick chart. And all it really is a 2x2 matrix where you come up with all of your potential solutions and you rank them according to the impact and the ease of implementation. Impact is usually, the impact on the metric itself. So if something is taking too long, or 20 days, we want to measure how much that solution is how big it's going to have on that impact of 20 days. And then the ease of implementation, it could be cost, it could be political will, it could be system changes, it could be duration. So again, a nice simple tool, but it really helps a team of people to come up with the things that really we should be doing over the ones that we should not be doing or doing at a later stage. Obviously, each of these would need to have an action plan behind them, but this is the high level, get everybody on the same page tool that we use. Once we've approved it, we've come up with a plan, then obviously we want to keep it there. So this is where visual management comes in, measuring, monitoring, and keeping an eye on why things are going wrong and using analysis as we go, in this case a Pareto diagram, to measure any defects that we're having. And the idea obviously from those lean principles is we want to keep improving it as we go, strive for excellence. I guess another thing here is visual management is probably changing a lot, that we see, years ago, everybody in the same office, you'd have a visual management board. Everything now is kind of gone into the cloud or Power BI. So I think there's a lot changing in the visual management space over the last number of years. We also, every project will have something formal in there for reflections, for insights, for learnings. The phrase we like to use is the power of the tools in the conversations they create. So usually people have a lot of personal development and learning from these projects. And the other thing, we like to reflect as well as a team, especially on the tools. We really like to give the people the tools that help their individual project rather than just, look, we see the phrase, if the only tool you have is a hammer, you tend to see every problem as a nail. We really don't want to end up there. So we really try and be flexible with each and every project and pull in different tools if they're required. So to finish on this one, what does 2025 look like for us? There's huge opportunities because we're going to have so many new people in and we're going to be taking control over water services. So I think we might change from doing a lot of work with the back office functions, to doing a lot more work out there on the sites, with the people who are actually making it happen on the ground. So I think that's a huge opportunity for us. We might need to adopt our approach to do that. So if we go back to that list of tools that we saw ChatGPT creating, maybe we'll need to use a lot of the tools up at the top of that. Or maybe we'll need to use different tools for the back office, to what's happening in the plants and out in the field. We're building up a continuous improvement community of practice. So these 400 people that have been through this, we want to set up a community of practice so we're talking and leveraging and encouraging other people. And the other thing, there's many different teams doing similar things. Just like every other company, we've got an innovation team, we've got project management teams. So we're constantly trying to sell our methodology. to say any project, can use the define, measure, analyze, improve, control, and pull in some of those tools that we're using. That can be leveraged across the organization. So with that, that's me. I hope I didn't take too long, Derek. It's about 25 minutes, I think. So thank you for listening. I might stop sharing.
Yeah. Thanks, Mark. It was very, very insightful presentation. So we have some questions in. I suppose I have a couple myself as well that I might dig into. I suppose one of the biggest things is how to get started. Very large organization. It's growing quite quickly in terms of, I know you're going to have a lot of new people involved in it in the near future again. So I suppose, first of all, how do you get started and how do you get a buy-in participation in terms of continuous improvement?
Yeah, that's a that's a big question. I know it's different for every organization. Like, I came into this one and we were already started. I've been at different companies where it started right at the top. Somebody comes in and come in from a lean background, and they hire in a big, huge lean team, and it filters down. The journey with Uisce Éireann, I think Uisce Éireann was very different. There would have been an initial team that would have been set up under Arvia, and there was gas and there was water, and then there's a split, and some people move to one and the other, and it kind of depends then on people. It depends where the function ends up underneath what function. So it started years ago. It's more not now about how you get started, but how we keep getting leverage and momentum and buy-in. And really, it's very organic. It's done by encouraging people to come and join us. It's by selling what we do, by trying to get involved in various initiatives. And I think we're kind of lucky. The three of us in the team are pretty mature. We've been around. So we're quite good at doing that and selling our services. So it's hard to directly answer your question, but it's really about selling our products and selling our philosophy and getting people to come and avail of our courses, but also for us to get in on some of the bigger strategic initiatives where we can give our inputs and sell our methodologies.
Yeah, it's interesting what to say about courses. You have a lot of people gone through the white belt. I know it's a relatively short program online, and the yellow belt is good. You did say that you don't feel, I think the term was, you're bang for your buck in terms of the green belts at the moment, that you're not necessarily mature. Can we, because quite often we look to the green belts as part of a continuous improvement project, maybe part of that, and there's real buy-in from people. Why do you feel maybe that it's not that successful with yourselves at the moment?
Yeah, it's one we ponder over. I think there's a number of things. I think, first of all, we're an organization in flux, right? There's a lot of opportunity, a lot of movement, a lot of change, a lot of competing priorities. So Greenbelt typically for us is a 9-month to a year thing that somebody takes on as a project. So at the moment, given all the organizational changes, it's hard for somebody to be able to easily plan out that 12 months. And there's so many other strategic projects happening. There's lots of project work already out there. And I suppose the other thing I'd say is our yellow belts, some of them are quite complex, and do take up to 3 to 6 months to complete. But I think it's just a combination of all those things, and the amount of time that we have to put into it with a small team. If we're not seeing amazing projects, maybe we feel it's better that we give a lot more of our time to the yellow belts and get more volume through, rather than focusing on bigger projects with a smaller number of people. So I think we might park it for a year or so and then come back and take a look at it. But if the yellow belt is really working and growing and delivering, that's where we want to put in our efforts.
Yeah, that's interesting. I suppose the perspective is a lot of people online or that attend the webinars are involved in Lean Construction Ireland are in the operational side, the project delivery side on the ground and on so on. Whereas as you say, you're in the kind of the back office and support service, professional services. How important do you feel the training is? It's quite often, I suppose, I premise it by people who are working on site. find it difficult to give time to site teams to do, let's say, formal training, because you have to take them off the job that they're trying to deliver, etc. How does that work on back office professional services?
It's obviously much easier, you know, because it's not like, you know, people are dedicated on the line and they can only do stuff on their lunch break, you know. People can kind of, especially with the more flexible working environment we have now, you know, people can start and finish flexi time. We do a maximum or a minimum of 2 days in the office. You know, so people are working from home in the main 3 days. The Yellow Belt offering is over a week, 2 hours a day for 5 days. So again, people can manage their work around that. So yeah, I just think it's the nature of the employees we have, makes it much easier to get 10 hours over 5 days, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And I suppose the question that kind of follows on is, and it can be difficult in what we're all advocates for lean. We know the impact it can have and the benefits it can have. How do you actually measure those benefits, or what have you metrics apart from just doing the programs, but actually what the difference in that training or going through the likes of the DMAIC has done? How do you track that?
From an organizational perspective, we're not there yet. You know, it's not like we have a PMO and we add up all the projects and we say we've delivered 3 million in either hard or soft savings a year. We're measuring it locally at the moment. We do measure, you know, from a training facilitation perspective, the cost it would be if we were to go externally and get that. So, you know, we do measure that. But I think that's something we're going to go into, you know, next year and the year after, you know, operational efficiencies, and start measuring it at a higher level. But at the moment, and when we're starting off to, you know, you've mature Six Sigma organizations, you know, that if you do a green belt that has to do a hard saving of 50 or 100K and a black belt has to, we don't want to go there yet. You know, again, it's this pull model. We want to encourage everybody to come in and do it and do lean and understand the principles. And it's more about the culture at the moment, rather than, you know, shooting for X number of million a year. So we're just not there yet.
And that kind of leads on. We spoke about a lot of the tools and the make and so on, but that pull and the culture piece, how are you finding that, or what's your communication tool? What's the pull?
At the start, it was kind of going out there and that rational plus, please come and do our courses. Whereas now people are coming to us, you know, because we've got 300-400 people trained, they're going to their colleagues, and you know, they're going to their teams and saying, this is great, you know, go to the course, you get free support, you get recognition, you know, people are building it into their annual performance plans. So we're full at the moment, which is great. Whereas maybe 2 years ago, you know, we were encouraging people to sign up, whereas now we're oversubscribed, which is proof that I think that whatever we're doing is working.
Okay, very good. So, and I suppose we had a chat about this earlier, is the difference between the kind of the lean and the Six Sigma piece. You're not so much doing so much Six Sigma at the moment. Where do you see the opportunity maybe into the future with that?
Good question, and it's probably something we need to have a chat with the team. And it depends where you've come from. For me, I've come from a lean background, and lean for me is about getting everybody involved. You know, it's not about having a belt. It's not, I have a black belt, I'm better than you because you've only a green, or you can only save money because you have a green or a black. The lean philosophy for me is everybody can see waste, everybody can be empowered to improve things. So that's why we like the DMAIC. But if you want to talk about mad things like, you know, variances and design of experiments and, you know, really, really complex mathematical models, I think we'll get much better bang for our buck on keeping things nice and simple and talk about flow, taking out waste, and getting everybody in the organization on board, rather than maybe seeing it as an elitist thing that you've got a green belt or you've got a black belt. So that'll be my thoughts on it. Let's get everybody doing this.
Very good. So that's it for the questions. Sincerest thanks to Mark for today's presentation. Please note that a copy of this webinar will be sent to everyone who attended. Information will also be sent out shortly in relation to the next webinar in January. For information on this and other webinars, our annual conference, our annual book of case studies and other LCI resources, please visit leanconstructionireland.ie and follow the Lean Construction LinkedIn group page. Finally, thanks to everyone who attended today. Very much look forward to meeting you in the future at further Lean Construction Ireland webinars. Have a nice day. Thank you.
Thanks a million.